Living life again, the first thing I did was buy the lottery ticket that won 620 million. Knowing the winning numbers, I immediately fulfilled my dream of a beachside mansion and a handsome young man beside my bed. As for my original family that valued boys over girls, I decided to cut them off completely. My hypocritical and abusive ex-husband? He can go be with a dog. No, he doesn't even deserve one. I suddenly opened my eyes and found myself lying on a big bed. Just a second ago, I had passed out from being abused by my scumbag husband. So why am I now without a scratch? I looked at the unfamiliar hotel room. My phone was gone, but my smartwatch showed the time. January 29, 2024, 7:30 p.m. I've been reborn. Isn't today the night my mother sent me to that abusive man's bed? No time to feel glad about undoing the past, I jumped out of bed and ran. Out on the streets, I was dizzy, probably due to the sleeping pills in that drink. While passing a lottery store, I suddenly stopped. January 29th. Is this the day before the biggest lottery jackpot winner in history? 620 million. I never forgot those numbers. My brother loved gambling, especially buying lottery tickets every day. I always despised it, firmly believing hard work was the way to get rich. But that headline after New Year's in my past life left me speechless. 620 million, can you even imagine? For once, I was thankful for my photographic memory. If my brother hadn't squandered everything gambling before, my mom wouldn't have rushed to marry me off to an abuser. Driving that thought, I rushed into the store. The lottery store was nearly empty, just a few people there for warmth. A small TV played a rerun of a recent awards show. I squinted at the familiar actor. Yup, exactly the same as last time. I checked my phone for my account balance, gritted my teeth, and shouted. I'd like $500 in lottery tickets. The 2 or 3 people nearby turned to look at me, like I was crazy. The previous winner bought 100 tickets for the 620 million. If I want a big share, I gotta buy big too. I've got $500 in cash, that'll do. As no one acknowledged me, I took a deep breath and dashed to the back. Boss, I want to buy $500 of this ticket. I shoved the slip with numbers into his hand. The lottery store owner glanced at it and said casually. The time's up, you can't buy any more. I just saw him issue a ticket to someone else. It's only 7:50, how is it too late? Isn't it supposed to stop at 8 o'clock? I got anxious. The owner sighed and shook his head. Young lady, you're spending $500 on just one ticket? I nodded. Lucky numbers. If I don't win, it's for charity. He looked doubtful but printed my ticket anyway. I thanked him politely and dashed out of the store. They have no idea that this skinny piece of paper bought for $500 is my future mansion and lifetime happiness. Back home, just the glow from the TV illuminated my brother's face in a frenzy. 05. 05. What kind of garbage number? He yelled, face flushed, kicking the coffee table, as if yelling the right number would make him win. He was startled upon seeing me. Sis. Aren't you? Not what? I eyed him warily. In my past life, I never suspected my brother. He loved money greedily but wouldn't go as far as sell his sister for it, would he? Watching his evasive expression, I hesitated. Was my mother and brother in collusion to send me to that abusive man's bed? It's nothing. I thought you went out with that poor guy again. Hey, I've got 4 numbers right, I might win hundreds. Want in? Chip in a few grand, got a killer number. I threw my shoe at him. I have no money to give, just my life. Each month's salary went into this house, yet they still wanted me to shell out more. No way am I playing the fool again. Afterward, I lay on my bed, planning my next moves. Like last time, I'd had a boyfriend at this moment. But my brother's gambling left the family strapped. My salary barely covered our needs. My boyfriend was just a small company manager, earning about 10 grand a month, not bad in this town, but far from my mom's desires. She'd favored my brother since childhood, even selling me off to Charles, the abusive man. That man seemed gentlemanly at first, but after marrying him, his true colors showed. He loved hitting people with belts, becoming more violent at the sight of blood. He kept me locked away, preventing escape. Total psychopath. This time, I'll take our household registration and be with my boyfriend. I won't endure another life of being abused and drained. Having made my decision, I eventually nodded off. The next day, I awoke to loud noises outside. Mom. Just 2 more grand, please. The loss isn't my fault. Everyone buys like this, who knew he wouldn't win? I rubbed my temples, checked my phone for trending news, and smiled, not surprised. I took out the crumpled lottery ticket, grinning. I hit 470 million. It still felt unreal. I exited my room, planning to go claim the prize immediately, no time to lose. My mom seemed shocked to see me. Karina, why are you here? Am I not supposed to be home? I smirked, eyeing her expression, my hand on the doorknob when my brother blocked my way. Sis, got any money? Just 2 grand? No. Then ask your boyfriend. He's got to have some, right? You said he was broke, remember? So step aside. I forced past him to leave, but my brother tattled to Mom. See, Mom. She won't lend her own brother some money. Give me that bag at least, it's old but still worth something. He tried grabbing the bag Larry gave me for our 3-year anniversary. I'd always cherished it, no way I'd let him sell it. Plus, I wasn't lying when I said I had no money left. I spent the rest on lottery tickets yesterday, leaving less than $500. As my brother reached for it, I quickly pulled back. Tom. Let go. Larry bought this for me, it's not for sale. Give it back. The bag strap snapped amidst the tugging. Tom saw the bag was useless and angrily threw it down. I got tossed to the ground too. My butt hurt like hell, and from past experience, I knew there'd be a big bruise. He cursed and then shoved past me, running out of the house. I was left there, red-eyed and wincing, locking eyes with my mom. She gave me that disapproving look again, saying, Karina, you should give in to your brother. Karina, you should give in to your brother. The same old line, every single time. As a kid, she made me give him the last piece of meat, so I never got a bite. In junior high, Tom and I had parent-teacher conferences on the same day. She didn't even think twice before going to his, making me the joke of the class as the wild child. In college, Mom's salary could only cover one of us, and guess who had to give in again? She wouldn't give me a dime. My brother lived off takeout while I was stuck with dry bread at the cafeteria. So, I worked part-time, scraped by on scholarships, and somehow made it through 4 years. After graduating, every penny I earned went to the family. But what did I get in return? I gave her a cold look, forced a smile, and walked out. I took Larry with me to the state capitol to cash the ticket. 4.7 billion in winnings, almost $1 billion in taxes, and I felt like I was dreaming with the light check in hand. Larry, I said, I'm gonna make sure we live well in this lifetime. You're not gonna regret sticking with me, right? I showed off the lottery ticket with a triumphant shake. Larry still looked dazed. I must be dreaming, Karina. He joked, and his goofy expression made me laugh. Yeah. Want to cling to my lucky leg? I teased. He laughed, held my hand, folded the ticket neatly, and tucked it into my shirt pocket. As surreal as it all seemed, he reassured me, I'm not with you for the money. We'll build a good life together, just with a bit of hard work, right? I felt emotional looking at gentle Larry. In a past life, I'd turned to him for help when dealing with domestic abuse. I broke up with him on a whim and quickly married the abuser. Though heartbroken, he let me go, yet would still stand up for me. Once, when he saw my bruises, he got into a fight with the guy, ending up bloodied and detained for days. I could only watch his suffering. He had always been gentle and humble, yet was willing to fight for me. This time around, having him is more than enough. We enjoyed 2 blissful days together. Returning home, the oppressive atmosphere wiped the smile off my face. My mom and brother were there, glaring at me. "Karina, you've got some nerve, disappearing for days. Your brother's had no one to cook for him. He's a grown man, can't starve himself, and isn't he good at ordering takeout?" I headed inside to grab my pre-packed bag, ready to leave again. "Stop. Where are you going?" "Forgot to tell you, I'm not living here anymore. Bought a seaside villa and planning to move right in. I'll come back for my ID when I can." "You can't go. Mom's not feeling well, you need to stay and look after her." One glance at Mary's face and I could tell Tom had lost money again. She probably handed him more cash, just like that. I needed to get out fast. "Karina. Fine, you can leave, but how about you meet this man for us?" Mary shoved a business card at me. "Charles from Clear Skies Agency." Just the sight of his face made my stomach turn. My mom was relentless. I thought this life would be different, yet here we were again. "All right, book a time, and I'll go." Tom finally stepped aside when I said that. As soon as the door closed, he eagerly asked, "How much of a bride price will we get if she marries him?" "At least $500,000. Stretch it out. If you run out, you can ask your sister." With a smirk, I grabbed my simple luggage and headed straight for the beach villa. Larry was at work, promoting to a VP role and staying busy. Even as a new billionaire, I couldn't afford to quit working. Living without purpose would drive anyone crazy. So, I indulged in a little shopping spree before heading back to work that afternoon. I was an accountant at this small firm, and usually, it wasn't too hectic. But today, I noticed tension as soon as I arrived. My coworkers shot looks at my brand new designer bag and outfit, then turned away, looking judgmental. Confused, I sat back at my desk, catching a couple of girls gossiping about me. Some women would do anything for money. Truly an embarrassment to us independent women. Exactly, pocketing company money without a shred of integrity. They kept shooting looks my way, leaving me clueless. Did they think I got this stuff by stealing from the company? Modern women oblivious to their inside-out clothes? Did Alice skip delivering the substandard coffee beans? I rolled my eyes at the 2 gossips and buried myself in work. Before I could even start my computer, Vivian called me into the manager's office. I walked in and was met with accusations. The manager said I'd stolen $50,000 and demanded I confess and sign a repayment and confidentiality agreement. I was baffled. I'm an accountant, not a finance specialist. Shouldn't they be held accountable? The manager frowned. "Karina, own up to what you did. The finance specialist has been here for over 10 years. She wouldn't do something like this, especially when she claimed you pleaded with her for a salary advance. If short on cash, ask someone for help. Don't take from the company. She's been around for over 10 years. I've been here 5, an old hand too, so why pin it on me? That doesn't prove anything. Check the surveillance footage." Visibly irritated by my defiance, the manager snapped. "Karina, don't make this worse. You know how bad this behavior looks. Without confession, not only will you be fired, but your record will be tarnished. No company would hire you after this." Fed up with his hypocritical act, I decided. Call the cops, then. There's nothing that can't be sorted out properly. The manager slammed his hand on the table and told me to go reflect on my actions. He said if I didn't own up by the end of the day, I'd be facing a lawsuit from the company. I took a deep breath and rushed to the women's restroom to compose myself. $5,000? My bag alone today costs more than $5,000. Just because I asked for a salary advance, does that give them the right to insult my character? Fuming with anger, I was about to wash my face when I overheard Vivian chatting with a coworker in a stall. "Do you really think Karina stole that $5,000? Vivian replied, "No way. Did you see the bag she's carrying today? It costs over $6,000 at the mall." "Really? Could it be fake?" "I heard her family's not that well off." "I don't know," Vivian continued. "I think the financial officer might be behind this, staging the whole thing. I saw the manager flirting with her the other day. They could be in on it together." Hearing this, I quickly left the restroom. No wonder the manager was so insistent on a confession. I used to think he was fair, but it turns out he's caught up in his own mess. I clenched my fists, waiting for Vivian to come back to our desks. When she arrived, I asked, "Vivian, would you help me testify? Let's talk to the boss. If you reveal the affair between the manager and the financial officer, I can clear my name. In the company, I trust Vivian the most. I was the one who recommended her, and we often vented about work together." But now, Vivian looked at me disapprovingly. "Karina, I can't help you with this. You should go apologize to the manager. I can lend you some money if you need it, but let's not make this worse for everyone." "What do you mean by that? You know I wouldn't do something like this." Vivian sipped her coffee, giving me an indescribable look. "Where do you find the nerve to fight the manager? Don't you know he's related to the boss? If you want to stay in this circle, just admit it and move on. That's all I can say." With that, she turned her head away, acting like she was a seasoned pro at navigating these office politics. I felt both desolate and amused. So, the manager and the boss are indeed relatives. But if their relationship were that strong, would they be fussing over this $5,000? I thought for a moment and ended up making a trip to the bank. When I got back, I saw a crowd forming around my desk. Karina, that shameless woman, ran off. Why should we bear her burden? Someone grumbled. Yeah, we're not taking the fall. Her bag and laptop are still here, maybe we can sell them off. Another suggested. I realized they thought I skipped out and were trying to shirk responsibility. I shouted, don't touch that. I snatched my bag back from Alice's sharp nails. With her track record, it'd be ruined in no time. Karina, you're still here? Pay back the $5,000 to the company so we don't get blamed. Carrying a fake bag when you can't even afford it. You think changing your clothes turns you from a chicken to a phoenix? You know what? Just go stand at the back alley tonight, you'd make that money in no time. The back alley, our infamous red light district. These disgusting men made me want to slap them. And that's exactly what I did. I whipped out a thick stack of fresh red bills from a black plastic bag and slapped it right against that trash-talking co-worker's face. The crisp sound echoed as the bills scattered everywhere, and everyone was stunned. The guy, covering his face, looked at me like I was insane. What's wrong with you? I chuckled, pulling out more stacks and hurling them at him, forcing him to backpedal. I'm not crazy. I've got money. Plenty of it. The crowd was shocked, and some even began sneaking to pick up the scattered cash. Standing in the middle of the chaos, I declared, here's $100,000 in cash. My bag is over $6,000. The new gear on my laptop is over $2,000. Altogether, what I'm wearing and carrying is easily worth $5,000. Why would I steal that measly amount? Consider this a charity. But the blame? Let's share it. With that, I slumped into my swivel chair, crossing my legs, and watched my coworkers stand there dumbfounded. I hit a few keys on my computer and sent my resignation. If this place doesn't want me, another one will. It's a shame to leave behind that money, though. But boy, does it feel good to throw money at someone. Walking out with my resignation sealed the deal. You all know who's behind this mess. I've emailed everything I know to the big boss. You better watch yourselves. I scanned each of those loudmouth colleagues with a contemptuous look, then swung my bag over my shoulder and walked out of the company doors. At the corner coffee shop, I was sipping a coffee, waiting for Charles. I felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. It was a strange feeling. Once, the thought of him filled me with fear and hatred. But now I haven't been defiled by him, and I'm sitting on a fortune. Money has given me the courage to plan my revenge. I know him too well. This time I won't let him have it easy. The thought of revenge transformed my fear into excitement. Charles strode in, wearing a sleek black suit, and took a seat across from me, looking every bit the gentleman. "Miss Karina, hello." I nodded and watched as he sipped his cappuccino and winced slightly. "Waiter, get this gentleman an iced Americano." Even in the dead of winter, Charles loved his iced Americano. Such a pretentious guy. Charles raised an eyebrow at my request, but I wasn't in the mood for games. "I'm sure you've looked me up before coming here, Charles. Let's skip the pretense. I'll consider marrying you, but I want half of your assets." His gaze turned predatory, like a wolf sizing up its prey. "I admit, Miss Karina would be an ideal match. Ordinary but suitable. But aren't you already dating someone? Doesn't Charles have a girlfriend too? We can have separate lives, but I must be the legitimate wife. Last time, I learned only after the wedding that Charles had another woman. Not just that, he boldly moved her in with us. In the 21st century, two women sharing a husband is disgusting. I barely escaped once, only to be caught and tortured. Remembering it, I clenched my fist so tightly it hurt. Charles hadn't expected my straightforwardness and seemed intrigued. I knew he loved two types of women, the helpless, fragile types, and those wild enough to challenge him. This time, I resolved to be the wild rose that tames him, making him kneel in submission while drawing blood. "Sure, as soon as Miss Karina and I get the marriage certificate, half the assets will be yours. But you'd better ditch your boyfriend. I don't really like my stuff being touched by others." I nodded generously. "No problem at all." Inside my head, though, I rolled my eyes hard. His stuff? Does he think he's some big boss? His net worth is barely in the millions, not even enough to impress me. Then I officially moved in to live with Charles and his mistress. My goal was straightforward, to extract Charles's business secrets and give them to his rival. I knew there was a secret safe deep in Charles's study. He accidentally showed me the password when he hit me in our past life. But usually, he doesn't let me near his study. His mistress Vivian, on the other hand, is skilled at pleasing him and has been in there a few times. I'm here to take her place. For 2 whole days, I didn't even get close to the study's door because Charles didn't come home. Though he did transfer me $100,000 as pocket money. My mom and brother came crawling, asking me for money as soon as they heard. I sat on the couch, watching them touch Charles's antiques and pricey stuff like they'd never seen the world before. "Karina, when are you and Charles getting married? Look at this vase, it's beautiful. We should have one at home. That gold bracelet must be worth a lot, right? Did your brother-in-law buy it for you?" I fake smiled at these two shameless leeches. "I bought this myself." I yanked my wrist back, starting to tell them to leave. "Mom, Charles doesn't like strangers in the house. You should go if you're done." "What are you saying? Your mom found you a good husband, and now you act like you don't know us?" "What?" "I don't care, just give your brother $100,000, and then we'll leave." I looked at Mary in her worn-out clothes, feeling only irony. This woman's entire life revolves around her son, protecting him even if she ends up begging on the streets someday. Charles didn't give me that much. I'm broke. How about this, give me the household registration book, and I'll transfer the money. Mary eyed me suspiciously but eventually agreed. The next day, they came back, clinging tightly to the registration book. $100,000 isn't enough, Karina. How about $1 million? Just in case you turn your back on us later. I clenched my teeth, this was ridiculous. Mom, I can't get that much. How about this? Once I use the registration book to marry Charles, I'll give it to you. We agreed to split the assets after marriage. Split half? My brother and Mary instantly lit up with greed. They eagerly let go of the book. These two are both greedy and dumb as rocks. Looking at the registration book in hand, I finally felt relieved. Now I could marry Larry without worry. I turned to Vivian, who was filing her nails on the couch, and a mischievous grin crept onto my face. 10 minutes later, I had her tied up in the bedroom. I sat beside her, ready to bargain. Vivian is a shrewd self-serving individual, with a family background similar to mine. She endures all of Charles's abuses, including beatings, for money. As long as there's money, who cares about a few hits? That's what she constantly told herself in the past life until she was almost paralyzed by him. In this life, I planned to take Charles down but also wanted to save her. Tonight, I'll sneak into the study. You lure Charles out, just give me 5 minutes, and I'll give you 100,000. Deal? Vivian sneered at me. You have 100 grand, yet you won't give it to your brother or mom? Why would you give it to me? Do I look stupid? I showed her the balance on the bank card, revealing 5 million in there. Vivian's eyes widened in disbelief. Why are you sticking with Charles if you're this rich? He's abusive. Look at you, shouldn't you just run away? She showed me her bruises, and memories of past beatings came flooding back, making me furious enough to want to stab that jerk on the spot. I know he tricked you into this too. I'm planning to take him down. Once he's bankrupt, he won't hold anyone back anymore. You'll help me, right? I'll give you 100,000 when it's done. Vivian stayed silent for a moment. But what if we fail? It'll be bad for both of us. Never mind, you'll be fine. I'm the one who'll suffer. I tried everything to persuade her, but she remained unmoved. Soft or hard tactics didn't work on her, and my heart sank. Vivian was my ace, yet she chose to remain in her prison willingly. No choice. When Charles returned that night, I had to act alone. Even if I failed, I wouldn't lose much. Charles came back late at night, and I followed him into the study. He immediately ordered me out. I wrapped my arm around his neck. Why so harsh? I got the registration book today. Let's register tomorrow, okay? My eyes only saw him, pretending to be smitten. With his pride, he probably thought I adored him. Charles didn't expect me to agree so easily. He wrapped his arm around my waist. Did you break up with that little boyfriend? Of course, I'm with you now. I even got into a fight with my mom this afternoon about it. Look, my wrist is all bruised from them. I pouted, nudging his weak spot. His face changed, looking thrilled at the sight of my pale, bruised wrist. He leaned in, ready to bite. I thought, isn't the fire I set in the room burning yet? Why can't I smell anything? Charles grabbed my waist tightly, giving me goosebumps all over. It was disgusting, his hands groped left and right on my arms. It hurt so much. He lifted his head, that sinister grin finally revealing his true face. Hurt? Good. These bruises and marks look wonderful. I forced myself to endure, nervously glancing at the door. Charles started tugging at my clothes, and I took a deep breath, ready to kick him if I had to, even at the risk of failure. Then Vivian suddenly appeared. She slipped into the study in a sheer nightgown, her eyes seductive as ever. Seeing her, joy surged within me. She came through after all. Women really do rely on their female comrades. I murmured into Charles's ear about starting my period. He immediately let go, shooting me a disgusted glance like I was dirty, and fell into Vivian's arms. Go to bed early tonight, I'll take you to get the certificate in a couple of days. Once he was gone, I quickly donned gloves and opened the safe in the study. The heated floor was making me sweat profusely. I gotta move fast, so I can save Vivian at least once. Once I got the info I needed, I quickly snapped photos with my phone and uploaded them to the cloud. Then, I carefully put everything back in place and ran upstairs, yelling, "Fire! Fire!" After the fire was put out, Charles scolded me quite a bit. Luckily, there were other people present, so he couldn't say much more. Otherwise, he would have laid into me good. While his back was turned, I winked at Vivian, who was still disheveled. She smiled brightly back at me. With Charles being so arrogant, he'd never guessed that I was the one who leaked his secrets. His password was insanely complicated, only he knew it. But it only took me a few minutes to get the evidence and then run upstairs shouting fire. He was too panicked and worried to suspect me. I knew him too well, he was just that full of himself. For several days straight, the business news was filled with Charles's scandals and dirty tactics. Vivian took off during all this, but she didn't take my 1 million. Can't believe you pulled it off, but I'm set with what I got. That abusive Charles, I can't wait to watch him crash and burn. She walked out gracefully, cradling an antique vase from Charles's house. I, on the other hand, took the household registration book and went straight to marry Larry. While Larry and I were grinning for our wedding photo at the courthouse, Charles was probably tearing his hair out at the law firm. 5 days later, everything came crashing down. Charles's law firm went bankrupt and shut down. Filthy videos of him with clients circulated in the industry. His reputation was completely trashed. He stumbled home smashed out of his mind, and I was waiting for him on the couch. Seeing me, he lit up. "Karina. You're still here? I knew you wouldn't leave me. That witch took off with my stuff, I'll drag her back and beat her senseless." He reeked of booze and lunged at me. I stepped aside, and he crashed to the floor, nose bleeding. "Catch her? Look who's in trouble now, Charles." I crouched in front of him, rubbing my hands in excitement over what I was planning next. Charles looked at me in disbelief as I smiled. I whispered in his ear about how I exposed all his plans. "Surprised? Bet you didn't see that coming, huh? Karina, why are you so cruel? What did I ever do to deserve this from you?" He tried to get up but was too drunk to stand steady. I pulled out a sturdy belt I had ready and laid a hard one on him. "You've lost it, Karina. You dare hit me?" He stumbled and slammed into the cabinet. "Didn't you say these bruises add some color?" I savored his screams, lit a cigarette, and kicked him down hard, pinning him underfoot. The lit cigarette gradually fell, with the ember searing into his arm. "Charles, this is payback from a past life. Every lash, every strike, I'm giving back to you. The rest, you can pay off in prison." I let off steam, as thunder and lightning roared outside. Laughing out loud, I ran out into the rain, leaving that past prison behind. At that moment, my life was finally free. After that, Charles ended up in jail, and Larry and I lived happily ever after. But somehow, my brother heard about it and brought my mom out to my seaside villa. I stood on the balcony, looking down at them. "Karina, where'd you get such a big villa? Did Charles leave it to you? You should have told your mom. Your brother's worried about you being lonely, so we've come to stay. Let us in, okay?" I took a sip of coffee, listening to the ocean, and said nothing. Even with the winter sun out, it was chilly, and the two of them were starting to feel it. When charm didn't work, they began to throw a fit. "Ungrateful thing. Your mom raised and fed you, set you up with a good man, and now you've got a big house and don't know us? Right, Karina, our mom worked hard for you. Now you've got money and you're acting worse than a beast. Open up and give me 10 grand to play with." Larry came out, hugging me, asking if he should handle it. I shook my head. Then, I threw them a paper and pen. "Sign this document to cut ties with me, and you'll get 1 million each." Mary and Tom were stunned, clearly not expecting this. But they wanted a long-term meal ticket, so they tore up the paper right there. "Karina, where's your shame? The man I introduced you to, you're using his money to take care of another? You can't even give it to your mom? We're legally married. This villa is legally ours, understand? I flaunted the marriage certificate at them, then called security. Mary, Tom, I gave you a chance, but you refused it. You both mistreated me since I was little. I never had enough to eat or wear. Every penny I earned was wasted by you. I'm human. I'm your daughter, your sister. But you treated me like your cash cow. They were ready to argue, but I shouted over them. You want to know something? I bought this villa outright with my own money. Tom, you love gambling, right? The day I ran away when you sent me to other men's beds, I bought a lottery ticket for $5. I hit it big, 500 million. After taxes, it's still 400. But sorry, you won't see a dime of it now. With that, I turned and went inside. Mary and Tom stood there, dumbfounded, probably never having dreamed of encountering numbers in the billions. As the security dragged them away, they were still shouting profanities. I'm not worried about them coming for me. Later, I'll hire someone to make them sign my severance agreement. They borrowed from loan sharks. If they want to stop running and hiding, they'd better listen to me. As for what happens after, I don't care what kind of life they live. After dealing with that mother and son, I lay on the bed and took a deep breath. 2 lifetimes, and I've finally shaken off an abusive husband and a leeching family. It wasn't easy. Larry, am I a bad woman? Larry was sitting at the bedside, peeling sunflower seeds for me. I don't know if you're a bad woman, but you're definitely my kind of woman. I smiled and kissed him, then the phone suddenly rang. I answered, and it was Cindy, a colleague from my old job. The big boss wants to know if you're coming back to work. The manager has already resigned, and the boss says you can take the manager's spot. And there's that $100,000 you left behind? I almost forgot about it. But forget the manager position, it's bad luck. Ask if they're willing to give me the boss's spot. I could buy out your company. And that little bit of money, I don't need it, just donate it for me. I let out a satisfying sigh. Larry looked at me with a loving smile and gave me a peck. We cuddled for a bit, and then I snuggled into his arms with my laptop to binge-watch some shows. An ad popped up about a famous male star getting 13 years for a scandal. I suddenly remembered something. After this news broke, the stock market stayed sluggish for a while. But one new energy stock skyrocketed, sweeping through the market like an army. With trembling hands, I opened the app and bought $1 million worth of stock. In a month, I might actually become a billionaire. Larry, let's start our own business. You be the boss, and I'll be the finance officer. We'll dominate the business world together. Sure, what do you want to do? I closed my eyes and thought about it. Let's open a bookstore, combining it with a cafe. This idea's good, let's start picking locations now. Great. From now on, life is going to get even more exciting.